Are you finding it hard to remember what you study, even after spending countless hours with your books? You're not alone. Many students face the same problem. But here's the good news. With the right techniques, you can transform your study sessions into powerful memory-boosting routines. In this video, we're diving into the top 5 scientifically backed study techniques that will not only help you remember better, but also make studying more effective and less stressful. Stick around to discover the strategies that could change the way you learn forever. Before we dive into the techniques, here's something important to understand. Your brain doesn't work like a sponge. It can't absorb and retain everything just by reading or highlighting. In fact, studies show that passive learning, such as rereading notes or watching lectures without engagement, is one of the least effective ways to learn. Your brain thrives on active engagement, where it's challenged to work and make connections. Let's look at 5 practical and research-backed methods to make that happen. Technique 1. Active recall. First on our list is active recall. This is hands down one of the most effective ways to strengthen your memory. So what is active recall? It's a method where you actively test your knowledge by retrieving information from memory, rather than passively reviewing it. Here's why it works. Every time you pull something out of your brain, you're reinforcing those neural pathways, making it easier to recall the information later. How can you use active recall? Flashcards are a great tool. Write a question on one side and the answer on the back. Quiz yourself repeatedly. If flashcards aren't your thing, try writing down everything you remember about a topic without looking at your notes. Then, go back and check what you missed. You can also explain the topic to a friend, as if you're the teacher. The more you actively challenge your brain, the better it gets at storing and retrieving information. Technique 2. Spaced repetition. Next up is spaced repetition. Ever noticed how cramming for a test doesn't help you remember anything long-term? That's because cramming overloads your brain, and it's not designed to retain all that information in one go. Spaced repetition, on the other hand, spreads out your study sessions over time, helping your brain process and store information more effectively. Here's how it works. When you first learn something, review it the next day. Then review it again after 3 days, then a week, then a month, and so on. The idea is to review material just as you're starting to forget it. This technique not only boosts memory, but also reduces the time you need to spend revising in the long run. To make spaced repetition easier, you can use apps like Anki or Quizlet. These apps use algorithms to remind you to review material at the right intervals. It's a game changer for building long-term knowledge. Technique 3. The Feynman Technique. Have you ever felt like you understood something perfectly until you tried to explain it? That's where the Feynman Technique comes in. Named after the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman, this method helps you truly understand and retain information by simplifying it. Here's how to do it. Take a topic you're learning and pretend you're teaching it to someone with no background in the subject. Think a child or a complete beginner. Break it down into the simplest terms possible. If you get stuck or can't explain something clearly, that's a signal you need to go back and review that part. By simplifying complex concepts, you not only identify gaps in your knowledge, but also strengthen your understanding. Plus, teaching others, or even pretending to teach, is a fantastic way to reinforce what you've learned. Technique 4. Mind mapping. Coming in at number 4 is mind mapping. This technique is perfect for those who are visual learners or struggle to organize their thoughts. A mind map is essentially a visual diagram that represents ideas and their connections. To create a mind map, start with a central idea or topic in the middle of a page. Then, draw branches to represent related subtopics. For example, if your topic is biology, you might have branches for cells, genetics, and evolution. From there, add smaller branches with details like definitions, examples, or diagrams. Mind maps are excellent for seeing the bigger picture while also breaking down details, making it easier to understand and recall complex information. Whether you draw it by hand or use digital tools like MindMeister, this technique will help you organize and connect ideas in a way that sticks. Technique 5. Interleaving. Last but not least, we have interleaving. This is a lesser-known technique, but it's incredibly effective for building a versatile memory. Interleaving involves mixing different but related topics during your study sessions instead of focusing on just one for hours. For example, instead of spending 3 hours solving only algebra problems, you might alternate between algebra, geometry, and calculus. This switching forces your brain to work harder to make distinctions between topics and apply what you've learned in different ways. It mimics the conditions of a real test, where you're likely to face mixed problems rather than questions on just one topic. While it might feel harder than sticking to one subject, that's actually a good thing. The difficulty means your brain is working harder, which strengthens your memory and understanding in the long run. Let's recap the top 5 study techniques we covered. Active recall. Test yourself to strengthen memory. Spaced repetition. Spread out your study sessions over time. The Feynman Technique. Simplify and explain concepts to understand them better. Mind mapping. Organize information visually to see connections. Interleaving. Mix related topics to build a versatile memory. Each of these techniques taps into how your brain learns best. So try incorporating one or more of them into your next study session. You'll not only remember more, but also feel more confident in your ability to learn. So, which technique are you excited to try first? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more tips to help you study smarter, not harder. Thanks for watching, and happy studying!